By now you've probably heard of the popular TV show that portrays the Cordyceps fungus infecting humans and turning them into zombie-like creatures. But let me tell you, the real-life scenario is much more terrifying. I work in a lab that specializes in plant and fungi experimentation. Our primary focus is on developing new drugs for the pharmaceutical industry, including everything from anti-aging remedies to creating the next little blue pill. However, we also received significant funding from the Defense Department, and their research requirements are much more sinister. "How are the new test subjects going?" Steve, our lab supervisor, asked as he approached me, carrying a clipboard. He gestured towards the 8 test rooms in front of us. "Number 4 looks promising, and I think 6 and 7 are starting to show signs," I said, looking up from my workstation. Inside the 8 test rooms were 5 men and 2 women, 1 in each room, plus a single empty room. It was left empty after a rogue chimpanzee from the earlier phase experiments had managed to escape its cage and break the pass-through window, which is used to transfer materials and instruments between sterile and non-sterile rooms. Stephen nodded, a look of excitement on his face. "Excellent. We're getting closer." In the cages, test subject 1, 2, 3, and 5 appeared to be behaving somewhat normally, pacing their small 8x8 cage or talking to themselves. However, test subject 4 had remained motionless now for about 2 hours, lying on his side with his back to us, with his chest rising and falling, his only movements. Meanwhile, test subjects 6 and 7 had recently become lethargic, barely responding to the electric shocks administered to their enclosure. All of the test subjects had been exposed to a variety of chemically altered Cordyceps fungus. Typically, Cordyceps cannot infect humans due to our higher internal temperature, among other factors. However, by modifying the fungus's genetic makeup, we were close to changing that. "Let's keep a close eye on those 3. Report back to me if there are any updates." "Will do," I replied. With that, Stephen left the room, and I returned to monitoring the test subjects' vitals on the screen. Interestingly, subjects 4, 6, and 7 had significantly elevated heart rates, almost 50% higher than the others. Additionally, their endorphin levels, the body's natural painkillers, were unusually high, indicating that they were experiencing intense pain despite showing none of the typical outward signs. "What do you make of this?" I asked my lab partner Mike while pointing to the screen with my pen. He looked over the vitals on my screen. "It looks like they are in intense pain. Those sorts of levels would be what I would expect to see if someone were on fire," he said dryly. "Yes, that's what it looks like to me as well." Our test subjects were some of the worst criminals our government had locked up. The advantage of working for the Defense Department, especially where we required human subjects, was there was no shortage of forgotten criminals. Terrorists, murderers, and other violent offenders. These individuals were typically housed in maximum security prisons and were serving lengthy life sentences often. While the use of human subjects in scientific experiments is controversial and subject to strict ethical guidelines, the Defense Department saw the need to conduct these tests outside the normal guidelines. Therefore, the rules no longer applied, and we had the green light to do whatever we needed to get the result. "Let's do a blood test, see if the troponin levels have increased on subject 4, 6, and 7, I said to Mike. Mike nodded and left his seat to get dressed in his hazmat suit. With the heart rate and endorphin levels so extremely elevated, I thought it could be possible that the Cordyceps is already spreading through the test subjects, paralyzing them while simultaneously causing immense pain. If my theory was right, then not only would we have successfully managed to infect the first ever human with Cordyceps, but it would have taken effect within 3 hours of exposure. Cordyceps is a type of parasitic fungus that primarily infects ants, as well as other insects such as beetles and caterpillars. The infection process begins when a spore of the Cordyceps fungus lands on the exoskeleton of an ant. Once the spore is attached to the ant, it begins to grow long, branching filaments that penetrate the ant's exoskeleton and start to invade its body. As the fungus grows, it releases chemicals that alter the ant's behavior, causing it to become disoriented and leave its colony. The fungus continues to grow inside the ant's body, eventually replacing its organs and tissues with a mass of fungal cells. We are not stupid. We know exactly why the Defense Department want to, essentially, weaponize this. We do this because we're scientists, and pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and further understanding the world around us is fundamental to our role. Now fully suited up, Mike entered the first test subject's room, number 4, and activated the cage squeeze function. The cage started to close in on the test subject, squeezing in from front and back. This process meant Mike could get up and close to the test subject without risk to himself. But just as the cage closed in tight, locking the subject in place, his skin burst from multiple areas and sharp, dagger-like spores fired out in all directions. Panicking, Mike turned and ran for the door he just came in through. I reached for the emergency lockdown button to prevent him from leaving and hit it a second too late. Mike ran out into the connecting corridor, screaming in pain. Some of the spores had penetrated his suit and were now drilling their way into his body, as Mike screamed and clawed at the holes, ripping his hazmat suit while trying to get them out. I activated the alarms and locked down my door as Mike thrashed about in the corridor. A few minutes later, I heard security come running down the hall and yell at Mike to get down. But he was in too much pain to respond. The security guards continued to yell at Mike, tasers drawn, when Mike suddenly started running at them. Without flinching, both security guards tasered Mike, dropping him to the floor. They then slowly approached him to restrain him when suddenly Mike's body tore open and fired out more dagger-like spores. Impossible, I yelled at the camera as I watched both guards get hit by the spores. The cordyceps had multiplied and spread within minutes. The guards, now themselves in agonizing pain, ran back through the doors they'd come from and into one of the main lab halls where more than a dozen researchers were working. Watching through the cameras, I saw the researchers panicking and trying to escape via the now locked doors as the 2 security guards thrashed around. Then, just like Mike, the security guard's skin split open, firing multiple spores around the room. Most of the researchers had now been infected, and those that avoided being struck by the spores weren't so lucky a few minutes later, as more spores went flying around the room. Soon every researcher was infected, screaming and writhing in agony. I stayed in my locked room for hours, watching as the infected slowly stopped moving. One by one, they collapsed to the floor or the tabletops, and I watched in horrified amazement as fungal growths started to grow from the holes in their skin. I eventually put on a hazard suit, unlocked the door, and left the office, slowly walking towards Mike's still body. By now, he was covered in fungal stalks and mushroom-like growths, and one had even gone right through his eye socket, popping his eyeball out to the side. But that wasn't the worst thing. The worst thing was his other eye, which was fixated on me. It had an expression of sheer terror and agony. He was alive, paralyzed, and appeared to be feeling every horrifying moment as the cordyceps slowly dissolved his internal organs and replaced them with fungal growths. "I'm sorry, Mike," I whispered, genuinely upset at his predicament. Mike was a good guy, but I knew I couldn't help him. The cordyceps were devouring his internal organs as he lay there. So I did what any good scientist would do. I carefully took a sample of the growth from his eye socket and a blood sample. I then carefully attached a mobile heart rate monitor to his arm through one of the ripped holes Mike had made earlier, and then slowly backed away into the secure room, locked the doors, and awaited my rescue. The data I could get from Mike would no doubt prove invaluable for our next attempt. So here I wait. It has taken longer than I thought to be rescued. It has now been about 60 hours since Mike got infected. The bodies are now unrecognizable lumps of fungal growths, and Mike's heart finally stopped registering a pulse about 15 hours ago, which means he was alive for 2 whole days after the infection. He did seem to have multiple heart attacks during that time, no doubt from the pain of different organs turning to slush, but somehow he was kept alive. I have tried the internal lines multiple times, but no one is answering. It's probably a security protocol I'm unaware of. And I can't see the cameras outside this part of the facility. But I'm sure they're just taking extreme precautions. After all, the last thing anyone would want is for this to escape the lab. But I'm sure everything is fine. At least, I hope it is. It has now been 270 hours, or just over 11 days, since the first spores infected Mike. I have slowly accepted that help may not be coming, as some had suggested in the comments in my last post. So for the past few days, I've been planning my escape. I'm not sure what has happened outside my lab area or the conversations my superiors have been having, but I'm assuming it has been deemed too risky to attempt a rescue at this stage. There are still no internal comms working. The phones are down and the internet chat is disabled. Actually, that's not quite accurate. The phones don't seem to be technically down, it's more like no one is answering them. The only item that is working is this tablet, set up to share documents and files on our internet only, which I managed to jailbreak and connect to an external cell tower somewhere. Unfortunately, this section of the lab is located underground and there is no reception. Every now and then, however, it does connect with a single bar. It is a brief connection, usually only seconds, and while I did once manage to connect a call, it dropped out almost immediately. But it was enough to upload my last report online, and hopefully it will be enough to do it again. There have been a few developments in my current situation that I need to share. These developments have impacted some of my plans, and have also put me under some pressure to fast-track my escape. Firstly, our test subjects. As mentioned earlier, test subject 4 was the one that showed the earliest signs they were experiencing a positive reaction to the Cordyceps, which was later confirmed. I know some of you will find my use of the term positive as an oxymoron, but from my point of view, that's what it was. Well, it seems the Cordyceps compound had also worked on test subjects 6 and 7, though it took another 72 hours for that to be confirmed. They had both been lying almost completely still in their cages, the monitors displaying their vitals indicating they were still very much alive, and, like 4, in extreme pain. That's when 6 started to violently convulse, thrashing about his cell like a puppet being pulled by all the strings at the same time. Not long after, his head suddenly jerked back at a seemingly impossible angle, splitting him open at the neck as a long, wet fungal stalk pushed its way out of his throat. He collapsed on the ground and his vitals immediately flatlined, as the fungal stalk unfurled and stretched across the small cage. 7 was more interesting. Shortly after 6's head popped off, 7 started to convulse. But 7 somehow managed to regain some motor control, scratching at his eyes and managed to scream out, "Help me," before both his eyes were violently forced out of their sockets, as gray-green fungal stalks pushed their way through the path of least resistance. He continued to thrash and scream as his shirt rippled and moved, with dozens more stalks slowly ripping through the soft skin around his ribcage. 10 hours later, his screams had stopped, most likely due to the large stalk that had worked its way out of his mouth. The other subjects, 1, 2, 3, and 5, showed no signs of delayed infection. They died from having no access to food or water for 11 days, which, in hindsight, seems like a preferable way to have gone. They, of course, had no idea what had happened to the others, and had spent the first few days screaming and yelling for help while trying to break out of their cages. I eventually muted their feed, but kept the visuals going in case a delayed infection presented itself. None did, though, which was a little disappointing. Also, on day 6, the power cut out. The backup generators kicked in, along with the emergency lighting, casting the hallways and labs in a slow, flashing, blood-red hue. Mike's disfigured body in the hallway and those of the guards and lab technicians in the main lab hall became an even more terrifying sight in the low red light. The flashing lights almost gave the bodies a new life, casting dancing shadows around them. Also, the blood that had pooled around each body from the wounds where the spores had torn their skin had seemingly become the perfect ground for fungal growth. Large patches of mucus-colored growth spread out from the bodies like lumpy tentacles feeling their way across the floor and up the walls. And then, 3 days ago, Mike's head broke off and slid away. Yes, you heard that right. And I didn't even notice it happen. Mike was essentially just a large, semi-human-shaped lump of colorful fungal growths by then. But I had been observing him on the monitors long enough to notice that something drastic had changed. I had to rewind the security footage to see what had happened, and sure enough, at around 11:30 the night before, his head fell from his body and onto the floor. Then, like a fast-moving snail, it slid off down the hall toward my door, where it stopped for a few minutes and seemed to feel around the edges, like it was looking for a way in. Then it turned suddenly and took off, continuing down the hall and around the corner where it moved out of sight. It was fascinating and terrifying at the same time. The fungal stalk from his eye socket almost seemed like a snail's eye, moving around as the head slid like it was directing it as it went. But the thing that had worried me the most was the question. Why did it stop at my door like that? Could it tell I was in here? Would it try again? I started to plan my escape at that point. This lab, as I have previously mentioned, primarily focuses on drug development for the pharmaceutical industry. The main building is a 2-storied glass and brick building located in the mountains, 30 minutes from the city outskirts. The area I work in is located 30 meters directly below the main building. There are 2 main ways out. The elevator, which goes straight up to the main building, and an emergency exit. The emergency exit leads to a 2-mile-long corridor, which eventually exits via a large metal door in the side of the mountain. To get to either of those exits, I need to get through the doors that the lab technicians were banging on before they were infected. Behind that door is a small hallway with a security desk that then leads to the lobby, a large pentagon-shaped room where the lift and emergency exit are located. 3 of the 5 walls of the lobby are colored, red, yellow, and blue, and they all lead through laboratories and testing rooms just like the one I'm in. The other 2 walls in the lobby are white, with the reception admin area on one, and offices for the senior managers and supervisors on the other. The emergency exit is located between these 2 areas. I'm currently in one of the research rooms at the back of the yellow lab. The biggest hurdle in my escape plan so far is a large fungal mass against the door in the main lab hall. 2 or 3 bodies have become merged in a large clump of fungal matter, and it appears the bodies have, through what appears to be some sort of slimy mucus, become attached to the doors. The doors themselves will be unlocked now that the generators have kicked in, so at least it's not all bad news. The entire facility may still be in a code red lockdown, meaning I'm unlikely to receive a hero's welcome in the lobby, as no one will be there. The red and blue labs would have been evacuated once I activated the alarm, so I am unlikely to see anyone until I return to the main lab above ground. I'm going to put on my hazmat suit and leave the safety of my office now. The suit is equipped with a camera and a voice recorder, so I will be recording everything on that from now on, in case something goes wrong. I have downloaded all the data from our experiments onto a flash drive, which I will be taking with me. I also plan on trying to collect some samples on the way if it's safe to do so. So I will have a small bag with plenty of sample tubes, swabs, and tongs. I just heard some banging in the ducts. What sounded like something crawling quickly in there. So it's time for me to get out of here. Wish me luck. Note: the following was transcribed from a voice recording that was uploaded to the web. Okay, suits on, voice recorder working, camera. Shit, the camera's not working. Of course it isn't. Oh, that's annoying, but not much I can do about it now. Okay, got the flash drive, check. Bags and tubes, check. Alright, I guess I'm ready. I'm Dr. Sean Johnson, lead mycologist in the Cordyceps trial here at... Oh, damn it. Sorry, I just knocked over a tray table. Or was I? That's right. It's currently 8:46 p.m. on the 17th of July, 2023. I am currently located in a top-secret underground research laboratory where there's been an incident that has resulted in many fatalities. I'm about to leave the safety of my secure room and make my way back to the lobby. Then hopefully up the elevator and back to the main lab building above ground. I'm making this recording while... Firstly, as a record of what I see out there to assist with my future research, but also as evidence, in case something goes wrong. I don't make it back. Okay, that's it. Shit. I didn't think I'd be this nervous. Okay, deep breath. Slow and easy. Here we go. Okay, I am now in the corridor where Mike's headless body is. The red emergency lighting in here is not great, and my suit's head torch is barely making a difference. There is a slimy, blood-stained trail where Mike's head traveled down the hall. I'm just going to grab a sample of that. Alright, well, I don't want to stand around waiting for his head to come back, so let's get a move on. I really wish it was brighter in here. This red flashing light is making me feel... nervous. I mean, it's making it look like Mike's body is moving as the shadows bounce around him. God, he's a mess. I'm only a few feet away from him now. It's hard to describe the color of the growths that dominate Mike's body in this light, but it's like a mix of dark greens, browns, and some dark yellow. I can see lines of dark purple, deep red running in the stalks, almost like veins. The mucus webbing, which is more evident this close, is a light brown color, semi-transparent. It seems to web Mike's body to the floor and wall like a cocoon of some kind. I have to take a sample of this. This is very interesting. Carefully does it. Shit. Wow. I'm just slowly backing away from Mike's body. My heart is racing. Oh my god. Let me catch my breath. Okay. My heart is pounding my ears. Okay, calm down. Alright. I went to cut some webbing for a sample. As soon as I touched it, Mike's chest, it moved. It moved a lot. I've backed right away. I'm right down the corridor now, next to the door to the main lab hall. I didn't get the sample. I'll try again from one of the other bodies. There's no point going back. Here I go. This room is normally so welcoming and bright. Staff work around the clock in here. So there's constantly something going on. It now feels like an apocalyptic murder scene. The red flashing lights, the piled up bodies, the fungal tentacles, which are much more prominent up close, stretch for meters across the floor and up the wall. Oh, wow. This is amazing. I've just found what looks like one of the spores stuck in the wall beside me. I almost missed it. Here, let me just grab this and bag it. It's amazing. It's about the length of my palm and feels like a piece of petrified wood shaped sort of like an arrowhead. It has these what looks like tiny clawed feet, only a few millimeters long, all over it, which might be how it drills its way into the body. I can actually see them pulsating when I pulled it from the wall, but they have stopped. Now it's in the bag. Fascinating. Okay, I'm going to follow the wall around. There There are too many bodies scattered in around the middle of the room in between the research tables, not to mention furniture and office equipment all over the ground. Okay, this route looks... It appears to be the clearest, at least until I get closer to the door, that is. You know, if this were a movie, I'd be expecting one of these bodies to jump up and charge me. I wish the camera were working so you could see what I'm seeing. I've made it up to the corner of the room now, another 20 meters or so. I'll be at the exit doors. Shit. I just stepped on one of the fungal tentacles. I didn't even see it, but 3 meters away is a body of one of the lab techs. As soon as I stepped on the tentacle, the body moved. Let me try this again. I'll just find something to poke it with. This'll do. Here we go. Okay, it moved this time, almost like the body was turning towards me. His shirt is ripped off of him. His skin is lumpy, greeny brown. It looks like a split in his skin opened up slightly. I need to know what that is. I'm going to take a closer look. Okay, the split closed up again, but I'm going to poke the fungal tentacle again and see what happens. Amazing. The skin split open again. This time I could see in maybe half a dozen areas, and the pointy ends of the spore poked about half an inch. It's almost like a trapdoor or spider tripline reacting when something is touching it. I'm going to roll a chair onto the tentacle and see what happens if there's sustained pressure. Incredible. That was about 2 seconds. A dozen or so spores ejected from the body in the direction of the chair, tearing it to shreds and embedding themselves into the wall behind it. My initial assumption had been that once the bodies had fired out the spores once, that would be it, but it appears that is not the case. The body is somehow regenerating them, remaining weaponized and laying trigger trip lines. This is beyond my greatest expectations. Amazing as it is, on the other hand, it has just made the task of getting out of here much more difficult. Shit, how long has this been off for? Hopefully not long. The voice recorder appears to have cut out there for a bit. I'm hoping I've got most of that recorded. I'm at the doors now, and there's no way through. The bodies are well and truly webbed to the door. Any attempt to remove them would likely result in a barrage of spores firing out. I've also noticed some holes in the doors as well, about the size of a small coin. I couldn't see those on the screen earlier. Did one of the guards fire a gun in here? I don't recall. It was so long ago now. All is not lost, though. There's a vent on the floor, big enough to crawl through. I'm pretty sure this vent leads to the hallway on the other side of this door. I just need to remove this cover to give me a moment to do this. Okay, alright. Got that off. Now let's see. Okay, I can definitely fit through this. It'll be tight, but I can see a turn in the vent, which does look like it leads to the hallway. Alright, here I go. What was that? What was that? Was that a rat? What the hell is that? Holy shit! It's a fucking hand. It's coming after me. It's covered in mush. Oh, wow. I just fired a bunch of mini spores. They all missed me and went to the vent above my head. God, I just kicked it back down the vent. I'm getting out of here. Okay, I'm putting that vent back on. That bloody thing's not going to follow me in here. That was a fully detached hand covered in small mushrooms, crawling like that hand from the Addams Family. It wasn't fast, mind you, but still. And the fact that it could fire spores as well, this is a completely unexpected development. I wonder if Mike's head could do the same thing. Well, there are no bodies in here. I'm in the hallway between the main lab and the lobby. It's just a short hallway, maybe 10 meters long. There's a security desk, but it's unmanned. There's a gun lying on the floor. The security guard's gone. He must have dropped it when they were evacuating. I think I'll take this with me just in case. So just through these doors, hopefully the lift hasn't been deactivated. There will be a... Shit. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Is this why they haven't sent a rescue team? How did this happen? The doors were sealed. None of the infected made it through. The holes in the doors, they weren't from bullets. They were from spores. Some spores must have fired straight through the doors and into the security guards that would have been on the other side. It looks like a war zone. There are bodies everywhere. I can see holes in the walls and the lift doors, shattered glass. There has to be 100, maybe more, bodies covered in that same fungal slime and growths as the others. Blood is splattered on every wall, all parts of the floor. Even the high ceiling has blood splatters on it. The red emergency lights are flashing in here too. No one was here to turn them off. My path to the lift is blocked with bodies piling up near the lift doors. Bloody growths creating a maze to try to get past. I'm going to have to go for the emergency exit door. The path around the side of the lobby is a little clearer, though still a few hazards. It won't be a walk in the park, but it's doable.
Hello? Is someone there?
Yes? Hello? Who am I speaking to?
Oh, thank God. Are you part of the rescue team?
No, not quite. I'm actually, trying to get out of here. Where are you?
I'm here, in the back office. It's the safest area. Where did you come from?
The Yellow Lab. Have you been in here the whole time?
The Yellow Lab? Isn't that where all this came from? How did you get out? I thought everyone in there was dead.
Yes, I was in a secure room. Are you one of the managers?
No, sorry. I'm Dr. Paul Gallen. I work in the Red Lab. I was in the bathroom by the break room when the emergency evacuation was sounded. When I came out, people were queuing for the lift. Some were heading for the emergency exit. When a security guard came running through the doors from the Yellow Lab, screaming and scratching at himself, he exploded. What were you working on in there? Others, they started screaming and clawing at themselves, and I just ran back into the break room and locked myself in there. It was like they were infected. I could hear them screaming and bashing against the doors and each other. It was horrible.
Do you know if any infected people made it out on the lift?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. When I eventually opened the door and came out, there were bodies everywhere. I just locked myself back in the break room. There's food and water in there, so I figured I could just wait for the rescue team there.
I don't think they're coming to rescue us. Not with all this. I think they may be keeping us locked down in here while they decide what to do.
Or it is spread up there too.
Yes, I guess I can't rule that out now.
So what's your plan? The lift is out, and the emergency door will be in lockdown.
It should have reset when the power went out. I'm pretty sure
That's not the only issue. I've been hearing sounds, shuffling and scratching, over the last few days. I thought maybe mice or rats, but it sounds bigger.
Which is why we should move now. Is there another hazmat suit anywhere here you could put on? I would love to be able to use the camera and record this.
No, not that I've seen. Why? Do you think it's airborne? What is it?
No, it's not airborne. I'll explain on the way. Follow me and avoid stepping on the blood-splattered fungus. It seems to be a trigger line.
Okay. I just want to get out of here. A trigger line?
Yes, me too. Watch your step here. See this trail leading to the bodies over there? If you put sustained pressure on it, it activates the spores from the body. You step on this and you'll end up like them.
Spores?
Yes, the things that exploded from the guard you saw. Spores that carry the infection are how it spreads from one person to the next.
Jesus. What was that sound? It sounds like someone else might be alive back there.
I don't think so. Shit.
Is that a head crawling at us?
Move it!
Quick, it's coming.
Help me with this door. It's heavy.
That's an arm, too.
Quick, close it. Close it. Don't let them out.
My God, they're fast.
Oh, that was close. Let's get out of here. I think it's just under 2 miles to the external door.
That was a fucking head and arm. How are you so calm? What were you working on in there?
I'll explain on the walk. I'm just going to stop recording here. I think I'm getting low on recording space. It appears the recording was stopped here. We are unsure what was discussed during this point. Okay, it's back on, I think. We are here at the external door, and it looks okay. The entire exit tunnel was clear. There's no signs of anyone infected or not having made it down here.
Oh, God. Fresh air. I was starting to think I'd never breathe you again.
It's dark. This torch isn't going to give us a lot of light back to the lab.
No, we can't go back there. We need to report this to the authorities immediately.
Hold on. No. We just need to return to the lab back up the hill and...
No way. They left us in there for 2 weeks. And they're probably all dead. And from what you were just telling me, what you were doing was unethical, illegal, and the authorities need to be made aware of what has happened.
Are you new here? You know this is what we do. Risks are a part of the research and...
And nothing. You have obviously gone too far with this. Or you didn't follow safety protocols. Either way, everyone is now dead because of you.
An unfortunate event, yes, but...
No buts. What you have done goes beyond what we do here. Even for us.
Hold on. Everything we do here is cleared by the Defense Department. You know that.
Manslaughter is not. Honestly, I hope they lock you up and shut down this whole operation. Wait. Hold on now. Just put that down.
I can't let you do that.
Hold on. Put the gun away. Haven't you done enough damage?
I'm sorry. I can't let you do that. My research is far too important. What I have done here will change the world. What I have done here, what I know how to do. I now have the power to bring down entire cities. Countries. Yes. That's what I need to do. I need to scale this up. Test it on a larger population. The results here were great, but what happens in an uncontrolled environment? I think I'll head down to the city. It's time for phase 2. The recording ends here. We are unsure of the origin of the recordings, but it appears to be authentic. Please, if you see anything similar to what was described here, contact the authorities and the CDC immediately. Today's story was written by One More Nightmare. It also featured One More Nightmare as a special guest. So if you notice, the voice of the other character in this story was not me. If you enjoyed that particular voice, please check out their YouTube channel. In the description below, you can find a link and support their work and let them know that Jordan Grupe Horror sent you. Today's video was supported by patrons like Mark from Earth, Crimson Muse, Joy Burton, Diane Showers, Mark Sewall, Cheryl James, Pick Your Sticker, Teddy Dog, Clue404, Mamakato, Dante Kincaid, Zarin Ray, Angela Donovan, Blairy 50, Devin Kyle, Timothy Baird, Ajeti, Bert Turner, Bajani Espinal, Michael Pierce, and Big Joe. If you'd like to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/Jordan Grupe Horror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you, which will be featured in the next Hollow's End story. Links to join are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow, and see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.